Welcome to Cambridge.
Cool. My pleasure.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at Cambridge Judge Business School. This is the final event of our inaugural edition of the Cambridge Open AI Day. And with me, we have Francois Candelon, who has very graciously flown in from Paris today.
By train.
More sustainable. Francois is the managing director and senior partner at BCG, and also the global director of their think tank, which is the Boston Consulting Henderson Institute.
Yep.
And he's also a thought leader in AI, speaking at global conferences and to CXOs around the world. And he's been kind enough to share those insights with us today as well. So Francois will deliver a presentation to us, and we will have a short Q&A session after that. So you have questions, just keep them ready, and we will get to it very soon. Francois, thank you for coming, and over to you.
So thank you very much. I'm extremely pleased to be with you today. And originally, because as you said, I'm having actually two roles at BCG. One, which is very academic, doing, let's say, studies, experiments, writing articles in academic reviews, the other being more a practitioner. And I believe that being here, I wanted to come to, let's say, one of our experiment with some professors from Harvard and MIT. And Romy told me, no. You are here for a discussion with future leaders or already leaders. So what we would love is to better know what you are saying when you meet with CXOs, with CEOs all around the world. And so this is a bit what I will do today, a short version of what I'm telling them at the moment. And this is my state of the art. So I'm not saying that this is the state of the art because it would be a bit arrogant. Apparently, it's not too bad, so let's be arrogant a bit. But then you will tell me later on. So first of all, when we talk about GenAI, and I always start with this, GenAI is your right brain, but AI has a left brain as well, which is what I call analytical AI. Some others will call it traditional AI and so on. And it's very important for you to keep that in mind, because you do not solve the same problems with analytical AI, which is much more about decision making, compared to GenAI, where it is more about personalization, content production, new ideas. Because to a certain extent, what was made with GenAI is the fact that we are all, it's a bit as if you were talking to something totally freely, that has read everything, but as an infinite memory. The only issue that we know is that memory is not reliable. And I think that these three elements are very important. You can speak freely. Basically, GenAI can deal with the ambiguity of language. So each of us is now a programmer. Economically, the architecture, the transformer architecture, makes it economically viable to read everything. And third is, as we know, there are hallucinations. Some people believe it is a bug. I believe it is a feature, because it's important to have new ideas, things that you would not have thought about. So this is something that is important. This is the first message. The second message, and here, even at this business school, I will quote Leon Trotsky, we are in a permanent revolution era. ChatGPT is just a very small wave compared to what will happen. We are already close to multimodality with Gemini that will allow these large models to better understand, and I try not to be too anthropomorphic, but better understand the context, because it will get trained not just on text, but on videos, on images, and so on let's say, sounds from the shop floor and so on. So it's very important. And then what we will have in the next 5 to 10 years is what we call autonomous agents that are not just about providing ideas or new text or new images and so on, but that are acting. It's a brain with legs and arms. And this will be the massive revolution. And I think it's critical today, as we will see, to keep that in mind when you do transformation as a leader. And therefore, I believe there are four key elements for leaders today, and basically they know much less than you do on what it is, so we need to be a bit basic. The first is what I call the potential, the platform, the policies, the people. On the potential, I try to avoid the word use case totally, because what we see that when you use the word use case, people think from a technological perspective, while when you want to leverage the potential of generative AI, you need to think in with a business mindset. And basically, when you think about business, it's either you want to increase the efficiency or you want to improve the effectiveness, to increase the effectiveness. And this is why I don't like, for instance, Microsoft Copilot with where you say, oh, how do you do that? Oh, yes, I could, because it is a diffuse productivity. And at the end, generative AI costs a lot. It's very expensive. So either you go for efficiency, and it's a very good old re-engineering, but that I would say is GenAI powered. So basically you revisit your processes, your workflows, but with GenAI. Or, and this, you can do it, and I would say a series of functions are largely impacted by this: marketing, customer service, support function, code development. It's really largely impacted, and you have a massive, you can have, if you revisit your workflows, you can have massive productivity, it can have massive productivity impact. The second thing on the other side is trying to think about, okay, new ideas. And for instance, at BCG, we've been working, for instance, with L'Oreal, and at the CES in Las Vegas, we released what is called the virtual beauty assistant. And this is, in that case, very different what you do, but it's a lot about imagination. So I would say, on one hand, in a company, you need to improve efficiency. It's to try to do better with potentially less cost. And therefore, there will be some people that will lose their employment. That's for sure. But we are in a creative destruction cycle, a Schumpeterian cycle. So there will be new jobs. So this is why you need, on one hand, to be effective, re-engineering, efficient re-engineering, and on the other hand, effective through imagination. And there are ways to make your company become more imaginative. And for that, I encourage you to read the book of one of my colleagues at BHI, Martin Rees, which is called The Imagination Machine. It is a great book. But as we said, something that on the efficiency, as you will see, we used to work a lot about knowledge management, pattern detection, content development, personalization. All of that will get condensed. But what is important at the moment is really to think about first about what you want to look for, to extend the prompt engineering with all what it is there. But more than that, as we said, there are hallucinations. So you will have to test and to revisit your workflows really from A to Z, adding testing capabilities, supervising the outcome of what is done by the LLMs. I give you here on the effectiveness one example. This is a real example that we did with a car company and with the engineers, and this is what we call inverse design, where you give the functionalities that you want to get to the company, to the LLM, and then it will come with new ideas. And as you can see the result on the top right corner of the slide. when you were discussing with the engineers, they were telling you this is not something we would have been able to think about. So I think that we need not just to look at GenAI as, okay, it is making things more efficiently, but really it can create new things, new ideas. I won't go into details here, but it will significantly impact your IT infrastructure. And this is why, because you will have data layers with your proprietary data, with your fine-tuned models, with your prompt libraries. You will have AI platforms. You already have with AI, you already have AI platforms with, let's say, tools that help you automate the model that enable the DevOps and MLOps best practices. And you will have the same like tool that will help you automate and optimize the user's prompt, that will help you, let's say, upload the latest models and so on. So there are things. Security will be at the core of it, because with GenAI, you drastically increase the vulnerability of your systems, both because GenAI can help hackers go into your systems, and because when you use GenAI, you have increased vulnerability, for instance, with prompt injection, where hackers are between your prompt and the result. And as you don't know what would come, they can really change the way the results of what you get. So it's really important for business leaders to understand the technology just a bit, to be able to challenge your IT, let's say the CIOs and the CTO that will come and say, oh, I need to do this, and it will cost Y, or on the other side that are not changing their architecture enough to that. So the between the business and the technology, it will be blurring a bit more. There are, of course, many risks about sensitive data leaks, the shadow AI. Just one example, if in a company you have a ban, and this is basically people are using it, and it's even worse because, and even in the US, I know a company in the defense industry, and you had 40% of their engineers that were using, let's say, ChatGPT without and putting data that should not be on the that should not train the model. So it's very important to accompany the wave. You have other things and so on, the lack of truth function, the corporate challenges, but I would say all this will be and can be mitigated. So it's an important element. Some will take a little bit more, but overall, this is not the main problem. I think that the big issue is more about your ability to learn and to know how to change. And this is one of the slides, and some of you apparently have already looked at this article, but I want to explain it a bit, because I think it shows important elements. The first one, there are three messages basically that we found in this study. The first one is that there are tasks where human plus AI is much better than human. In that case, it was on the creative task and so on. But at the same time, there are some other tasks where human and AI is actually much worse than human. And so there is a kind of a frontier, and it is a frontier that is shifting, and therefore you will always need to experiment. The second thing that we found in the middle, where human and AI is much better than human, we found three results. The first one is that there is a massive shift to the right. 90%, 90, benefited from being augmented. First point. The second point, as you can see, that almost 2/3 of the people were now at the level of the best humans. And what you could see as well is that the fact that you were below average, of course, they were great. They were all BCG consultants. However, even at BCG, you have above and below average of the group, was not predicting what you would get at the end. And I think that's very important, because here what it says that you will be able to expand the talent pool because it's shifting to the right. So, but you need to revisit your recruiting processes as well. The third thing on the right-hand side is that what we found is that while the result for creativity was much better with AI, the diversity of ideas was much worse. So maybe, and we are actually working on it at the moment, and it will be a new paper in, I think, April. We target February, mid-March, but I think it's more likely to be April or May. Which is to see what are the ways to make human and AI cooperate, because maybe very often people say, oh, we should have AI first at the first draft and then humans will improve it. Maybe this is the other way around. We might have humans as a first draft and then to improve it with AI. And so we will see what will happen. And so, but what we see at the moment is that nobody, even, and it's very important to see that, is what I believe is the main roadblock, is the ability for companies to really adopt these new technologies. As you can see, you only have a very limited number of companies which, after 1 year of ChatGPT is almost 18 months old, basically so few companies have been really adopting it, and so few companies have been trying to bring it at scale. And I think that's a very important point, because as you see here, the companies that are adopting it are really creating a source of competitive advantage. They believe they will have more cost savings. They believe they will have and be in a position to expand the market access. And I think at the moment that the different clock speed between these technologies, which are exponential, versus the adoption of these technologies, which is much more linear, make that the source of the competitive advantage for companies in the coming years will be the adoption of these new technologies. And so it's very important for you. So it's the rate of learning will become the source of competitive advantage. So this is, for me, a very important point, because I have many clients that tell me, yes, but there will be a new technology coming, so maybe I should wait for the next one. No, you should not, because if you're not trained today, your organization, to adopt these technologies, the next one, the threshold will be actually much higher. And therefore, what you need to do is really to embark into this journey as quickly as possible. You told me I was a bit long. Thank you. I stop here.
Robert, you can have one question and then one.
All right. So based on what you just said, the companies can get competitive advantage based on their rate of learning. So is that something that they're looking at when it comes to hiring practices, that they look at people who can be creative, because creativity is a part of it, as you mentioned, with GenAI, and they're looking for these kind of talent to bring them in? Is that a trend that you're seeing, or is that something the CXOs are thinking about?
No, I think that it's a bit early. So companies are slow. But I think that what they realize is that training, upskilling, reskilling, strategic workforce planning will be at the core of it. And what they need to do is to identify the capabilities they want to develop. And therefore, as I said, I believe that they will go for leaders. The imagination, the ability to imagine will become more important. The ability to deal with the ambiguity of these technologies. So I think that it's a bit, at the same time, there is a polarization. You need to understand technologies more and to understand what it can do, at least for the adoption. But at the same time, for the adoption, I would say that humanities, philosophy, how to deal with that, what does it mean, becomes more important. This, from this combination, from imagination and understanding of the company, of the technology, that really companies that are able to assemble it in a fruitful way will be the one that will thrive.
Very good. Understood. Good. All right. I would like to take this chance to thank the online audience. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back shortly with more exciting guests for you. Thank you.
Thank you.